Thanks, Rebecca. If you need anything, just yell.
Thanks for your help.
Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, and on behalf of the City of Independence, welcome to the TIF Commission meeting for November 12th here at 2 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everybody here. We have an election of officers. Nominations are now in order for the chair and the vice chair positions. Any member may nominate someone. Do you have any nominations on the floor?
Madam Chair, before we get started, could we do a roll call, please?
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Yes, we can do a roll call.
So I will take that. Aaron Mason. Wendy Baird.
Here.
Denise Fears.
Present.
Charlie Franklin.
Present.
Chris Whiting. Here. Grant Watkins Davis.
Here.
Ron Brew.
Here.
James Conley.
Here.
Allie Zarur.
Present.
John Zaturo.
Here.
Amanda McIntyre. Now we'll go back to Aaron Mason.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. My apologies, Mr. Scannell. Okay, now the first line of business is to hold elections. Do we have any nominations for chair or vice chair on the floor?
Madam Chair, I nominate Sally for chair.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations? Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Then I would like to nominate Ron Birch for co-chair.
I'd second both of those motions.
So we have a second. So
then just vote
take a
on the
vote.
motion.
We take a vote into motion. All in favor of that say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed. Seeing no opposed, we have our election. Moving on to the meetings from last time. They were handed out last Monday. Hope everybody had time to review those meetings. Do I have a motion on the floor to approve those meeting minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Perfect. Okay, we have a first and a second. We can just approve it. We can move to approve those meeting minutes.
So take a vote on that then.
I'm sorry.
So you have a motion and a second, and then we need to take a vote on that motion.
I'll need a vote to approve those meeting minutes. Please say aye for yes.
Aye.
Any noes? Meeting minutes are approved. All right, does anyone have any suggestions or amendments or, sorry, we just approved those, my apologies. I think we'd like to move on to the public meeting.
Sure. So at this time, we're opening up a public hearing with respect to the Wally's tax increment financing plan. By way of introduction, my name is David Martin. I'm with the law firm of Gilmore and Bell in Kansas City, in case you haven't seen me before. And I serve as Economic Development Counsel to the city. We have some folks here that represent the developer and a direct representative of the developer. And they will be giving a presentation with respect to what Wally's intends to do with this piece of property and the effect on the taxing jurisdictions. I'm going to start with just a high-level overview after taking care of some legal housekeeping with respect to the introduction of exhibits. So at this point, Ally, I'm going to offer onto the record the exhibit list, which includes exhibits 1 through 8. And I'll describe what those exhibits are. They were also included in the TIF Commission packets that the TIF Commission had access to prior to the meeting. That includes the Wally's tax increment financing plan itself with the attached cost benefit analysis, the roster of the members of the TIF Commission, and the notices that were sent out, which includes mailed notices to the taxing jurisdictions, 2 published notices with an RFP that were published in the Examiner, and mailed notice to the property owner. We've also included a sunshine law notice, a copy of the 4-day notice that's required to be posted that's specific to redevelopment plans, and a memorandum that you have seen previously that was included in your packet. So with that, I will offer those exhibits onto the record, and you can accept by just noting that they're accepted onto the record.
We note that they are accepted onto the record.
So this tax increment financing plan is set up in a way that's similar to the hub transaction that was approved a couple of years ago in terms of the types of incentives and the methodology of collection of just a half of the payments in lieu of tax, allowing the other half to flow to the taxing jurisdictions, much in the way that economic activity taxes are shared half with the project and half with the taxing jurisdictions by statute. Also, similarly, it will not involve any city backing, meaning that the city's credit will not be on the line for any shortfall in payments to either developer or with respect to bonds that are to be issued. This project is the redevelopment of the old Kmart site at I-70 and Nolan Road with a 54,000 square foot travel center to be operated by the Wally's company. It involves about $52 million worth of project costs, of which they are asking approximately $8.6 million be reimbursed to them. There is a significant component of traffic improvement costs, both with respect to the highway and Nolan Road interchange. That adds up to about $9.875 million. And that is the primary reason why we're focused on the $8.6 million of reimbursement. That is broken up into 2 components, 7.6 of which is for reimbursements to Wally's directly for those traffic improvement public costs that they will incur. And then $1 million of it will be as directed by the city with respect to improvements in the Nolan Road corridor. In connection with this plan, it is also anticipated that a Chapter 100 transaction will be entered into that will save Wally's about $2.3 million in sales taxes with respect to their development. The reimbursement mechanism, as I mentioned, is 50% of the TIF pilots, 50% of the economic activity taxes, and then they're currently in the process of forming a transportation development district that will impose an additional 1% tax on just the Wally's development that will pay for some of those transportation-related improvements as well. There's a blight study in the agenda packet that details the blighting factors. This is intended to result in a bond issuance by the Industrial Development Authority, which is exactly what happened in the hub transaction. And again, that would not be backed by any governmental pledge to cover shortfall in debt service. And it comes with a recommendation of city staff for approval. One thing that I'll bring up that the Developers Council will get into in more detail is they've recently discovered the need for a couple of amendments to the TIF plan, which will result in the need to continue the public hearing, and we'll get into that in greater detail after their presentation. So if you have any questions for me, you can ask now, or we can move on to the developer presentation, and we'll certainly be available for questions afterwards.
instructions on the mic, so I'm going to make sure that I'm doing it right, and everybody can tell me that I'm doing it right. Are we feeling good?
Green light on?
Tom, this is a test. I was just seeing if you knew.
I was paying attention.
Okay, thank you. Everyone, my name is Kurt Peterson. Since this is a public hearing, I'll give you my address, 900 West 48th Place, Kansas City, Missouri. I'm here on behalf of Wally's. The CEO of Wally's, Michael Rubenstein, is here next to me, to my right. I will say at the outset of our time together today that I'm a real estate financing professional that gets to be a part of things like this all the time. I love what I do. I enjoy seeing all the projects that I see, but not all of them are created equal. Many of them take months, or like this, can take several years to get to this point. But some are just more fun and rewarding, and I tried to put my finger on why it is with this project. I put a couple slides in just to give you a sense for perhaps why I arrived at that conclusion. I can advance the slides. Okay, it's not going to outsmart me. We'll go mouse. Save me, so it's not arrow. No. Page down. Slideshow. This is slideshow right there.
And from the beginning.
Left click. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. So as I said, I wanted to show a few images to give you a sense for why I just think it's a positive energy that Wally's has. I don't know if any of you have been to any of the two existing Wally's, but again, anyway, it's an exciting project that's going to hopefully bring a lot if we're able to move forward to the city. It draws and pulls a lot of people to the store. Approximately 80%. Michael, from experience of these Wally's visitors, will be people that are, coming to and passing through the city, right? It's not someone that they're not relying on someone that lives next door to keep the lights on. This attracts a lot of people to the city, and when they stop in the city, they spend time and they spend money, and they help everybody in the area. So hopefully by the end of our time together this afternoon, you'll share my and of course Michael's enthusiasm for the project and agree that this is a financial win, not only for the community, but for every single one of the taxing jurisdictions that are represented in the room today. So quick overview of what we would like to accomplish, at least affirmatively, before we spend time with you in question and answer. I'm going to start by sharing a bit of information about Wally's itself. So you have a sense for, if you've not been to a Wally's and not heard a bunch about Wally's, you need to understand what it is. Then I'm going to focus on the actual project site itself, where this project would be constructed, should we move forward with the recommendation. And then Michael will come up and he will describe the proposed project itself, the components of the project, including the extensive public street and highway improvements that would be part of it. And then I'll come back up and finish with all that as context, really, with the financial part, the request for tax increment financing that very specifically you're being asked to provide an opinion and a recommendation on today as part of this proceeding. So Wally's. Wally's is the proposed developer here. Wally's develops its own stores. As I said earlier, the founder and current CEO of Wally's is next to me, Michael, who you'll hear from in a minute. Wally's is based in Fenton, here in Missouri, just outside St. Louis. They also have a store in Pontiac, Illinois, which is between Peoria and Chicago on I-55, if you've found your way there before. Wally's will also this summer be opening a Whitestown, Indiana store. And then this is the next one we hope to deliver here in Independence. So the project site. The project is a true redevelopment project. This is not a greenfield. As many of you know, we're over at the former Kmart site, which is at the northeast quadrant of Nolan and I-70. You can see the boundaries in dark black on the screen, how it goes around the former Kmart site, and then also the vacant, some of you know as the Northern Tool Building. That's west of the former Kmart building. That's our site. This site is louder.
No, we stopped sharing with Chris, because I think, are you still sharing your screen?
What are we doing, Tom?
Slideshow.
We're showing a slideshow here.
It was good
we
to
can
go.
pause
It's
now.
okay. Sorry. Time out, guys. Sorry, guys.
We were having trouble on it. If you could tell, we were pressing all the buttons and we couldn't get it to advance, so we put it on the slideshow. But maybe that took it off your.
Maybe that's what happened. Thinking. Okay, Chris, I want you to tell me when you see it, okay?
Okay, it just popped back up for me on slide 1.
What slide are you on?
Great. Let's go to where it says project sites a little farther. Let's go a little farther.
Okay, it just advanced to slide 5, it
Okay.
looks like.
I see what you're probably dealing with. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try something real fast. There you go. So just hit the
That's great.
buttons either way.
That's perfect.
Yep,
Thank you very
yep,
much.
no problem.
We broke
Continue,
it. Unbroken. Okay, back to where we were. So we talked about the project site. And what I was about to say is, again, this is a tough redevelopment site. And I have a couple images. You have an entire blight study in your packet, but just a couple of images. This is like candid camera, right? When I press the button. Is this, are you messing with me? It does seem like that. Let's see if we can do it. We're kind of back where we were before. The really nice, smart IT woman that's been helping us. If you want to come save me, actually, I see an arrow down here. Hold on. We got it. We got it. Never mind. Call it off. So back to it being a tough site. These are just select images so you can get a sense for what kind of site we're dealing with. It has deteriorating site conditions for sure. There's constant homeless encampments that we've tried to not have be there, but it's very difficult. Trespassing, illegal activities. The blight study goes into a lot of detail that we're happy to talk about later if you'd like. But the bottom line is it was not hard to identify statutory blight, not Webster's blight, but statutory blight, exactly what the TIF statute talks about when it talks about blight. The city took the uncommon step of spending city funds to demolish the former Kmart building, given the issues that it was having, which were, I've heard a lot of anecdotal stories. There were a lot of problems with that building being up and unoccupied. And when Wally stepped up and purchased this site, they acquired the property and turned around and paid. No, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Rebecca?
Tell me which one's not working now. Okay.
You guys weren't even going to tell me?
I already interrupted once. That was enough.
We're sharing this one in Teams. Okay.
I'm just glad you're here. This is
Oh,
like
don't
the
be glad
worst
I'm
thing
here.
that happens when you have to do it yourself.
No, it's okay. What slide do you want to be on?
It would be great to be on the one that we were just showing.
Project
exactly.
site?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep. And it kind of has the Kansas City Business Journal tagline.
Okay. That one. Okay. Chris, tell me if you see anything change.
Okay. So back to slide 1 is what I see.
Okay.
And now we're on the project site slide with the KC Biz Journal headline.
What I'm about to do is basically hide the PowerPoint slideshow and close it for you. No, I can't. Can't do that. Okay. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves. You're making me nervous. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so. So we're sharing it so that way he can see it all at once. So that's why we're sharing it from this screen. It looks that way. The question is, if I close one or the other. I can join from my computer back there, yeah. It is joined. Yes. Thank you, ladies. So we want to see KCBJ. So remember, everything's on the USB drive.
Yeah. It's gonna take a second. There we go. There? Okay. You just need to, you can use your keys down here to advance if you want, or you
Left,
can
right.
use these, yep. So
That's great.
this is what Chris sees. This is also on the recording.
That's great. Thank you very much. Unpause. You have to laugh. I've done this 22 years. I've never had that happen. It's okay. This is good. So where we're at, we were looking at a headline in the Kansas City Business Journal on the screen that's talking about how something somewhat unusual happened. So the city said this is a real problem. This Kmart building is having the problems I think we all know about that were going on. And so the city paid its own money to knock down this building. Wally steps up, buys the property, and immediately says to the city, here's the amount you spent, city, $200,000 to reimburse you for taking that building down. But Wally's went further. Wally's also, at the closing, paid approximately $2 million in back taxes to all the taxing jurisdictions to get back to square one so we could talk about a redevelopment project. So that's the backdrop. This is a, kind of back to my tagline, was this is a hard site. This has been hard from the very beginning. It continues to be hard. But I know Michael and the whole team is very excited about transforming the site. Before I come back with the economics and the finances and the TIF details, Michael, if you want to come up and talk a little bit about the project site, it's the project itself and the components, and I'll come back up.
Thank you, Curtis. Thanks for working out the kinks, so it's smooth for me. My name is Michael Rubenstein. I'm the CEO of Wally's. Thank you, guys. Good to see everyone and meet everyone. And so our project, and just a little bit about Wally's, is I'm originally from Sullivan, Missouri. It's about an hour outside St. Louis on I-44. And so started this business with my cousin Chad, and really is based on the American road trip. And so we're not a truck stop. This is our, I think, maybe sixth or seventh public meeting in front of the city. So, there's been plenty of opportunity to talk about it, but just to give you a little brief overview, it's a 54,000 square foot travel center. And obviously with that comes a lot of questions because there's not a lot of players out in the market, but it is, we have a 42-foot vaulted ceiling in the middle where we prepare all of our own food. So our food equipment is as robust as a grocery store. We have all of our team members, they're making the food. We have prepared packaged foods. We have very large bathrooms. We also have a retail, about 10,000 square feet of retail as well. Outside the store, we have 84 fueling positions. That's two-sided dispensers. We also have we're planning on probably 16 to 20 electric charging. So it'll be, likely the largest charging facility in the state of Missouri. And then there's, I'd say the biggest conversation from day one. The biggest three parts of the conversation have been traffic, traffic, and traffic. And so there's a big part of that conversation that's been ongoing for 2-3 years. And obviously what we're going after is trying to create solutions for, not just for Wally's to operate, but also for, solving some of the current challenges that are there. We will create, 200 jobs, a combination of full and part-time employment. We really like to invest in the community. We like to look for whether it's the high schools or the community colleges, if any of them have culinary programs. We have a really large food program that we like to work with them, and I believe Truman High School has a culinary program, so I think that's a really great opportunity, for part-time employment to get real on-the-job training for, a win-win for both parties. And so that's something we're excited about. And then, has been mentioned a couple times, but obviously I think is worth repeating, is this is, not city-backed, developer-backed. And I do, and one last clarification, I always, like to mention, I know developers is the word that has to be used, but we're the operator. So we own the building, we're running it. It's a very, in my opinion, very different, maybe way of looking at it. Because when you're the operator, we're here for the long term. We're not selling the building and moving on. So we're here. So this is a slide. This is a little bit of a rendering slide, site fly through. And so where you're getting, this is at the entry, we have the home of the Great American Road Trip just off to the left. That's where the Northern Tool is currently located. You can see the extremely long line of gas pumps on your right, but when you look at the building we're proposing, you can see the quality of the types of materials we use. A lot of glass storefront, high-grade Nichiha exterior. As you start to work your way around the site, you can see that there's a large landscaping plan that's been approved by the city and planning commission and city council that includes a lot of trees as well as a buffer area for sound and light. You can see that up on the edge. And then as you get behind the store, everything, our trash collection, receiving, everything is essentially shielded to make sure that it looks good for the citizens who live directly behind the store. So a little bit of that site through or flyover. So from a higher level, when you were seeing that Great American Road Trip sign as it was going in, it was right at this location. And so as the site really took us right down here, are you guys getting feedback or is it just me? Sounds good? Okay. Maybe it's just weird hearing myself talk. But the Northern Tool building, our intention is for it to be taken down. And then you can see currently, a lot of the traffic problems that exist on Nolan Road, a lot of that is based on, and this comes through multiple years of and hundreds of thousands of dollars of traffic studies, studying the site through all times of day, from school getting out to rush hour in the morning and to the evening, as well as, weekends and school days and holidays, et cetera. And so right now, the biggest traffic impediment for Nolan Road is Lynn Court and the alignment of Lynn Court. There's about a 60-foot offset from where the Quick Trip is to the side we are. And so obviously right now the site is empty. And so even without a Kmart or any other tenants there, it's it's already challenging as it is. And so, as we looked at the site, and worked with our traffic engineer, I mean, we not only have to make the site work for ourselves and our development, but it has to work for the city. There's a lot of money invested from business leaders that have businesses up and down the corridor. And so what we have worked through and proposed is about $10 million of traffic improvements. This includes the addition of accel and decel lanes along the eastbound and westbound ramps of I-70. This is a problem that existed before Wally's came here. I think you could all agree if you're going south on Nolan Road and going west towards downtown, the lane yields very quickly into a very high traffic area. So that's already been a problem. And so, as this came up in our project, you could argue that, stuff that the state probably should have looked at is something that we're once again trying to be part of the solution. Additional right turn lane on Nolan Road for the westbound ramp. Lynn Court I mentioned in that alignment. A lot of different lanes for the egress. So we actually own the land just south of Lynn Court where the Andes is. So we're going to take that area to expand it. And then there's a big part of our traffic study is utilizing a program called Operation Greenlight that works through all the traffic signals so that when we do our alignment, that the traffic from all the way up to 45th, all the way south of 70 is timed to allow for not just our traffic at our store, but all of the existing traffic along Nolan. So this I think is a pretty powerful slide to show what's being requested and has been agreed to by Wally's, which is all the improvements in the red. And I don't know if you can see yeah, you can't see it, but I mentioned the accel and decel lanes. And so what I was referring to, and this is easier to show, is right now, you get dumped right into traffic. Part of what we've been requested to do is on both east and westbound sides to increase the accel and decel lanes. I think it's very rare for a private developer to have to deal with state DOT and state and federal highways. But it is where, it's just part of what our commitment to the project. And then obviously this is, one of the main concerns along the Lynn Court, et cetera. So a typical developer is using these types of financial instruments with the TIF and the TDD. And, we're very sensitive about it. We know where the money goes. But this is not being used to lower our cost of capital. This is being used for public improvements that is not, effectively going to take our build costs down. It's really trying to help solve public roads and federal roads and state roads to, once again, be a part of the solution, not just make, the Nolan Road corridor as good as it is today, but better than it currently is to work for us as well as everyone else.
Thanks, Michael. I'll come back up now and talk about the really soup du jour. This is all important context to really understand why is the public-private partnership proposed for your consideration today, and hopefully you have a little bit of more flavor than when you came in. So digging into that question, public-private partnership, there are two pieces to the proposed public-private partnership that are relevant today. There's actually a third. David Martin, bond counsel for the city, mentioned Chapter 100 for sales tax exemption on construction materials. That's true. I'm kind of not counting it's kind of off sheet. It's not a flow of funds like these two are. So in my world, there's these two incentive pieces we want to bring to your attention. One is tax increment financing, which is the core issue, but it's important for you to also know about the Transportation Development District too, because it's a key part of our overall financing. So those are the two pieces I want to unpack a little bit. David touched on them. It's important enough I'm going to touch on them again so that we elicit all the questions that you might have later. First with TIF. So two pieces, the EATs and the pilots, that is the effectively sales taxes and the property taxes. So with the pilots, 50% of the pilots will be left for the taxing jurisdictions. So not only the base that's out there today, which there is a base of property tax, flows to the taxing jurisdictions untouched, but also half of that increment that's created by this $50+ million project will flow to the taxing jurisdictions. The other half will go to the developer and their financial instruments. The second piece of the TIF are the economic activity taxes or sales taxes, which by definition in the statute, half, as you know, incremental taxes go to the taxing jurisdictions, half go to the developer. Also, there is a little base piece because there was an operating business here that entirely goes to the taxing jurisdictions. So those are the meat and potatoes of the TIF. The TDD is even more straightforward. It's a proposed 1% additional sales tax on any taxable sales in the Wally's operations. And that brings us to our capital stack. So looking at overall numbers, we've said several times, we're in the $53 million range for the total expenditure on the project. The TIF and the TDD, this is always a metric that we talk about when we go to any city or TIF commission, what have you, is what percentage of the overall project would be assisted with the public financing. So that metric here is 16%. If you add the TIF and the TDD together, that's approximately 16% of the overall $53 million expenditure, with the other 84% coming from private debt and equity. So the total TIF and TDD combined will be capped at just over $8.6 million plus financing costs. Again, that's something David brought up. You may have noticed in your copy of the TIF plan that the total incentives cap, that number is actually about $2 million more than that. And you're saying, yes, like what's the difference? That's a good, astute observation. So the reason that you see now this is better than the alternative, right? When it comes in higher, when you get to the meeting, this is about $2 million lower. The reason is that originally the capital stack for this project included a new community improvement district that would be formed right on top of the project that would add a 1% CID sales tax. Well, for the many months where we had that in our capital stack and all the things we do to get financing pulled together, we had made an assumption. We had made an assumption that the existing community improvement district, that's a thriving, well-known, great reputation CID called the Nolan Road CID, that has a 0.75% add-on sales tax, which encompasses our property and the corridor right there. We had made an assumption that we would probably be removed from that, and then we would put our CID for our project on top. Well, with no hard feelings about it, that didn't work out. That's not in the cards. That will be removed from that. So when the removal proved not possible, we concluded, and it was hard. We're trying to have a capital stack for a $50 million project, but Michael and his associates and I sat down and we decided that if we're not out of the existing CID, adding another CID on top for several, multiple reasons, just didn't make sense. So what you have now is everything that was presented to you in your materials that you studied before you came here, except take the CID off. That's all. That's why you had a cap that was not $8.6 million plus interest. You had one that was about $2 million more because that was from add-on CID that will not be requested or part of this project. So if you're extremely visual like me, but you have to have good vision, you can't just be visual. If you have good vision and you are visual like me, then this will be helpful to you because it is this exactly what I just said, but it's in table format. So you'll see there that the TIF reimbursement and the TDD reimbursement, those numbers here, when you add them together, they come to that I called it 8.6 million and change plus financing costs. So that's putting in the rows and cost and TDD versus TIF. And then also you can see the remaining private investment that's needed to round out the $53 million, which is $43 million, north of $43 million in private debt and equity. So where I, at least in my days and nights spent looking for ways to finance projects in our area, I try to end always with the value proposition, because each one of you represents a taxing jurisdiction, and it ultimately, right, this is a value proposition question. is it something that's a net benefit to this community overall and to your specific taxing jurisdiction? So, and that's our burden to prove that to you, and we're ready to do that today. So going through a number of quickly, because we can spend time in question and answer and delve even deeper. Michael touched on one, which is job creation. Approximately 200 permanent, full-time, and part-time jobs. And then also, this is a significant construction project, estimated to have about 150 construction jobs involved. Well, you're not going to get the slide because it's mad that I ended and doesn't want to go back. Let's see. Thanks, Michael. So job creation is the first. The second is Nolan Road improvements. As Michael went into pretty good detail with those slides, there's approximately $10 million of improvements that will go into a corridor that, while it's beloved, it does have existing challenges when it comes to traffic circulation, and we hope to make a great impact on that for the good. So $10 million investment there. Third is that it really represents the rebirth of a, I'm going to say, blighted property, a property that's in trouble, a property that's heading in the wrong direction. This will be a $50 million injection into a site that, from a real estate perspective at least, is a dying site that has, we'd say, sort of economic and social liability to it, and we're going to turn it around and make it something positive for everybody. Fourth, is this the fifth time we've said this? I think it's the last time, I promise. There's no public guarantee here. This is a Michael and colleagues and equity and put their money where their mouth is and make this happen. They will succeed. They've proven that with Wally's, but it's all on them. The risk is on them, not on the taxing jurisdictions, and specifically not on the city. Fifth, the incentives request is responsible in that it fits within the city's incentive policies, what the city has said they're open to from the get-go, and that was important for us to do. Sixth, Wally's will draw visitors and promote other businesses within the corridor. As I said briefly at the beginning of my remarks, approximately 80% of Wally's visitors are not coming from the immediate area. So as Wally thrives, in short, other businesses will thrive with more foot traffic and people coming to patronize their businesses. And then lastly, and this is last for a reason, so it's to me, this is the financial drop the mic, if you know what I mean, the one that carries the most weight, which is that the city and the other taxing jurisdictions, to be clear, all the taxing jurisdictions involved would see a substantial financial return on this public-private partnership investment. So during the life of the TIF, there'll be an estimated $33+ million in real property and sales tax revenues flowing to the taxing jurisdictions as a whole, and that's a net present value number. So those of you financial people, it's double that in terms of actual dollars, but from a net present value perspective, it's over $33 million that would flow to the taxing jurisdictions over the measured period of 20 years. So with the last slide of the day, this cost benefit analysis summary slide gives you a sense for what I just said. It actually breaks it down between the various taxing jurisdictions, with the key column being the last column on the right, the net present value of benefit, and then walking vertically down, you can see each taxing jurisdiction. You can see at the bottom the total, that's that $33 million that I mentioned in total benefit. Just to give you a sense, I didn't make a slide for this, but we can talk more about it. I picked one taxing jurisdiction, the city, to pick out what does that mean on an annual basis, right? I mean, these are big numbers. What does that mean on an annual basis? So the estimates show when the project would move forward that the benefit to the city in terms of net sales and property tax would be approximately $415,000 a year. And then I picked to point out in year 12, that would be up to about $500,000. And then the projections right now show that this would completely pay off at the end of 14 years. That's a projection. Would pay off then. And the amount flowing to the city because this project exists would be $930,000 very quickly. In the couple of years that follow, you get up to the $1 million number, all from this project for the city, for the useful life, right, of whatever that ends up being of the project. So again, the thesis and the punchline, and again, what I think is the most important conclusion of all, is that this project will generate substantial financial returns, not just for the city, that was my example, but for all the taxing jurisdictions involved. So I have a quick, boring, but important process update. I think, David, you alluded to this, so I'll unpack it a little bit. There are two updates that were made to the TIF plan that you received, I've actually, knowingly or unknowingly, I've covered both of them just in affirmatively presenting to you what we're asking you to consider today. But there are these two. One is removal of the CID. I know my whole discussion about why we didn't actually put a new CID in place like we meant to for the many months leading up to this meeting. So that was one change that I discussed. All the numbers I've shown you, by the way, have the CID out, so we're up to speed together, but I need to flag that. It's different than what was in your TIF plan. And then the second is the cost benefit analysis, which is reflected on the screen, is completely accurate. What you're looking at right now that I just talked through actually had a couple of cell errors that David and I last night were looking at. So what we're gonna do is we are going, and I should give you the conclusion there. So again, the screen is reality. That's correct. If you did a side-by-side comparison with what went out in the notice, you'd find that this is more across all the taxing jurisdictions. It went up. That's a good thing again. And then every single individual taxing jurisdiction was the same or went up, other than the city went down a little bit, Nolan Road CID went down a little bit, and the zoo went down a little bit. And we can get into the specifics if you guys have questions. But you can see these are all very large numbers still on the screen. So in sum, what that means is you're up to speed with everything, but because we live within a statutory world, and David for the city and I for Wally's need to follow, cross all our T's and I's. So that will mean we will send out, and David will get into more detail in just a second, one more level of detail, an update that just reflects what I verbally said, because that's what the statute says we need to do. But I wanted you to have the confidence, one, knowing that, but two, knowing we presented everything that's accurate today and for your consideration and feedback. So our hope is that even though David will describe, there'll have to technically be a recommendation that comes about a week from now. We hope today through your questions and your comments that we can, because you have all the substance, there's nothing new that's going to come out. We'd love to hear from you today, so we have a really good sense as day to day we're making plans, trying to move this project forward. So thank you for volunteering your time. This is obviously not a highly paid position. That's supposed to be a joke, but thank you. Your careful consideration of this TIF and the associated financing is it's essential. We need this to do this project, and we appreciate your careful time and questions, and we'll be here as long as it takes to answer all those questions today. So I'll turn it maybe back over to you, David. Thank you all for your time.
So at this point, it would be appropriate if you have any questions for the developer with respect to the presentation just made to ask those of the developer. We will have after that a time for public comment and then return to general discussion among the commissioners.
At what point did you decide on this incentive package that you were going to apply for with the city, including the TIF? Because when I look at some of the public reporting that was done on some of the community meetings, I did not go to the community meetings, but the implication that seems to have been taken by the people that were at those meetings was that there was going to be a significant investment in some of these public areas that was not going to have anything to do with the public dollar, which TIF does. It is the public dollar that is paying for that. So it seems like in some of the discussions that were had with the community, there was a bit of a miscommunication or maybe some sort of change that happened to imply that there was going to be, that these were going to be completely privately financed public improvements as opposed to the structure that we're looking at right now. So I was wondering about that change, or if there was a change or just miscommunication that happened there.
Yeah, just to be super clear, good to clarify. That's why we're here, to make sure we're all on the same page. So the way I would describe this, and Michael can chime in if there's more to say, is from the moment I came in on this project, and I've watched how that public improvement cost, mainly street improvements, right, public streets, offsites, has grown to unbelievable amounts as compared to the project. I mean, this is, and I do this for a living, right? This is a huge amount for a project of this size to bear. And so the task from the very beginning, when we got involved together and I was brought in as the finance person, was figure out how to get me back to a, quote, normal major investment, not a major investment that has $10 million of offsite public infrastructure. So from my perspective, I'm the finance guy brought in on the team, commissioner, that was always my goal, was figure out how to get a public-private partnership to neutralize, if you know what I mean, neutralize those offsites, and then Wally's can just do what it otherwise is, a hard redevelopment project on the site itself. So if there was something else that was reported or what have you. I regret that it was a misunderstanding, but from the moment I was involved, that was exactly what we're trying to do, is get public dollars in a responsible way to public improvements to get us back to just a normal hard redevelopment project on site, not off site.
Yeah, and I can add a little more. Ever since we went under contract with the property, and even before that, I think it was 2021, 2022, we're under contract. 2023, we closed. And so I think we had, I don't know, half a dozen meetings with the city and pre-development to just understand the process. Obviously, this summer, we had the neighborhood meeting, the council meeting, planning commission, first study session, et cetera. We've been completely consistent throughout from our first meeting of expressing our need for a partnership as we move forward. We know from our very first meetings that the hub development was one that seemed to be a successful partnership that worked well for everyone and was a win-win situation. And we know the other development that is problematic. And so, well, the Bass Pro project and the city being on the hook for that. And so consistently, whenever we've been asked, we've always used that word. Anything we go after is going to be developer back. So if there's any confusion or miscommunication, maybe it could have been clearly stated that developer backed means that it wasn't going to be city backed, but I think that's where maybe any of the confusion would reside. I'm happy to answer further questions if that doesn't answer it.
No, that does. Thank you.
I had a question. You mentioned the removal of the second CID because of the Nolan Road CID that's already in place. But you also mentioned that I thought I heard you say that it would still likely estimated pay out in 14 years of the 23. I was just curious, how did you make up that difference? How did it come out with still being a 14-year payoff instead of like longer?
I'm glad you slowed that down. That's good. So the reason is because you're right. That's an intuitive point, except that the reason you're seeing that is because I'm going to use super round numbers. We can get more specific if we need to. Instead of 10.5, you go to 8.5, 8.6, and so now you can, so if before with the CIDN at 10.5, it was going to around 14 years pay off, you bring down what you get to 8.5, you drop out the CID revenue, and you stay at that 14 years.
Thank you. That makes complete sense.
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that on your pro formas that you had an estimated IRR of 12.87%.
And for everybody listening, I'm collaboratively with you. For everybody listening, that was a leveraged 10-year IRR with the sale at the end. Yes, so exactly what you're right.
Absolutely. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, do you see a change in that from taking the second sit off, or will it be the same as the 14-year thing where it's kind of a in-out and it stays the same?
Yeah, and I think that one, I'll ask my colleague too, the one that finally went in had that one that led to the 12, had that CID out or in.
So the one that
so I get my numbers
12
right.
that she's referring to had it in.
Yeah,
The
that's
new
right.
one has it out, so it drops a little bit.
Vince is my brainiac sidekick. I wanted to be clear on the record, so that's what I understood, but he confirmed. So it does drop it, and that's why we're not looking for any sympathy. But if we were doing even longer, if we were having a sandwich, when we were talking about, and I kind of alluded to. I said this is hard. I said a few times this is a hard redevelopment site. This has a lot of offsites, whatever. I'm a little bit alluding to that, but that's our problem, not yours, if you know what I mean. So it has not gotten better being in the Nolan Road CID and not having our additional CID, but Michael and his CFO and all of us were, that's our job. We're pushing hard to make it work.
Well, I appreciate you guys being willing to do that. That I think shows, being upfront and willing to help the city with that. Appreciate that. One other thing on the numbers, I read in there that the 50% was based on, that goes to the taxing districts is based on surplus, but I felt like I was hearing you say that it was just 50%. So I'm trying to understand, exactly how that works.
That's
Is
another
the
good one.
50%?
Yeah, that's confusing, that word. What that's saying is that we're all, how about this? We're all saying the exact same thing. I think we're using statutory words when we get confusing with surplus. The bottom line is, you heard me say this before, but the base goes to the taxing jurisdictions, and then the increment, which is everything over the base, gets split 50-50.
I can add a little color on that too. The reason that word is used is because that's what appears in the TIF Act as the mechanism to separate less than 100% capture of pilots. So the way you get there, the way you create a 50-50 is to declare a 50% surplus.
Lawyer speak.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I have a question.
Sir.
That's regarding the construction of the building. What, do you have your own construction crews or do you bid the project out?
Michael, why don't you do that?
Yeah, we bid the project out. We like to use local labor and as much as possible. I would definitely, once we get to, any item as significant, say over $50,000, we're doing a competitive bid where we have 3 qualified proposals, and if there's a qualified local group, I mean that's typically our preference. But yeah, we'll hire a general contractor that will be the point. We hire a third party general contractor.
This might also be a question that includes Tom, but the City of Independence does assess traffic impact fees for developments. That is right?
The city does not.
It does not assess traffic impact fees. Okay. So then my question kind of goes to with the previous development. So we have 2 existing Wallies and 1 that's almost done, right? Are those also redevelopments of existing sites similar to this, or are they greenfield sites?
Yeah, good question. And it kind of runs the gamut because, as you can, the size of these sites, they're not just an outlot off a power center. So our first site was in Pontiac, Illinois, is a very small town. It actually was an opportunity zone, which, focuses on lower income and development areas. So we were within that city, we were in a TIF district. So there was a TIF that we were able to utilize for that. That was a greenfield site. Our second site in Fenton, Missouri, which is just south of I-270 and 44, was part of the 300-acre Chrysler, the original St. Louis Chrysler plant. And so there was a massive, that was a big brownfield site. And so that whole plant was demolished. There was brownfield. There was, every probably incentive in the book you could imagine. And so we came in as buying our parcel, but that was part of a really large redevelopment with a lot of incentives. And then our third site, which we're going to be opening in May of next year, and just north of Indianapolis in Whitestown, there's also a sizable TIF that on a relatively, it was a landscaping company, so it kind of, I would say it's more greenfield than brownfield, but there was definitely some structures there to take away. But part of what we did there also was doing some roadwork improvement. So it wasn't really lowering the cost of our building development, but it was creating access and additional roads to allow for better traffic flow.
And so how is, when you're building in like a greenfield area or anything like that, like you're going to have to pay to connect to your property to the existing road network and infrastructure hookups. And so I'm interested in so we talk about the increment and the taxes that are available. What is the increment looking like? What does the increment look like in the difference between developing those greenfield sites for this project? How much extra does it really cost to do this development versus that other project, because you are having to pay for all those utility hookups and all of those types of getting the streets to your area if you're doing this in a purely greenfield?
Yeah, it's hard. I can just give you, high level conceptual, my
That's
opinion,
fine.
and is obviously every site's different. Having the utilities, effectively stubbed to the back of the Kmart, you would say, oh, that's a positive, right? Because you're not on a greenfield site, you're bringing the utilities all the way in. Well, a lot of those lines are old and need to be replaced, and it actually costs more money because you're having to dig them out, tear them out, and put the new lines in. There are other things, that are beneficial, detention, right? So with the Kmart, they already have a area for water retention. We're having to make changes for it, but that site, having already have done the water detention, is beneficial for us, opposed to a greenfield site where you're digging it up from scratch. So it's a hard question, but I think if you'd ask most developers, they would typically, unless you're bringing, water and sewer from 5 miles away, if you assume that water is on a nearby intersection, pretty much I think everyone would agree that a greenfield site's going to be cheaper than having to demolish and replace on a brownfield site.
Thank you.
With your traffic study, have you coordinated with the ongoing studies that MoDOT's doing to add capacity to I-70 and to improvements in the interchange, several interchanges?
Yes, I think, not to be too punny, but we're trying to stay in our lane, and, we are, at the end of the day, a private developer. And so we are working with the city, who works with MoDOT, who works with the federal DOT. And so it's, we are doing everything in our power. And I think that the city could concur that we are doing everything we can to bring everyone to the table. It's a very unfortunate situation that there's the I-70 improvement project has improvements just to the east of us, just to the west of us, and that we sit in this gap. So we're doing our best to I guess kind of spearhead. It's obviously for our benefit, but we also think it's for the benefit of the city and Nolan Road and the citizens. So I don't know that I gave you a direct answer, but we're doing everything we can, but it's not a streamlined process.
And to be clear, Michael, while I have not been at the table for every one of those discussions, there's been so much discussion and communication with MoDOT that whatever they have in the back of their mind and all that's being brought to the table. This isn't like one MoDOT. I'm teeing this up with us all, but this isn't one MoDOT meeting you've had or interaction.
Yeah, and Tom, you might have some.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of that, and as Kurt and Michael alluded to, there have been years worth of conversations regarding traffic, and as Kurt had mentioned, MoDOT, their top district engineer, has been involved in all of those conversations, and so as they have thoughts in the backs of their minds as far as what I-70 could look like in the near future, they kept that in mind as they were reviewing the traffic study that Michael and his team presented not only to the city but also to MoDOT.
Okay, I just wouldn't want to see the two plans be incompatible. For you to build something and MoDOT
Tear it out.
and
Yeah.
tear it out.
Yeah.
Right.
My understanding at the Planning Commission meeting, which I believe was late August, early September, something like that, was that Wally's had given MoDOT the information that they'd requested back and forth, and that you were waiting to hear back from them. Have you heard back from them since then, or are you still waiting for them?
Yeah, so the process, is the conversations started over 3 years ago, but as it evolves, what happens is we did a year-long traffic study, as I referenced before, all times of the day. That went to the city, that went to MoDOT. Assumptions were provided, they were discussed, they were debated, and then got to the point, I believe, in February this year where we actually submitted our plan, got comments in May, resubmitted in June, got comments in July. And so we're at the third or fourth submittal, which we are waiting for comments back this week. Unfortunately, the person who is on our case has taken another position, so there's a little bit catch up on MoDOT side. But what MoDOT does effectively, and Tom, please step in if I'm saying this wrong, is they're giving their recommendations to the city, because 90% of the improvements we're doing is actually on City of Independence jurisdiction. And so MoDOT's obviously a very small piece, but they're a very slow moving boat or train or whatever you will. And so we are at the point where I think we're to the final kind of steps, but then what happens is they'll give they don't give a technical approval, but they agree, and then we have to go through design. But at that point, a lot of the approvals then turn over to the city.
Yeah, and just to add some additional information, most of the comments that are outstanding right now are very minute. They're more on the engineering side of things, as far as which radius to use, certain design parameters. But what Michael highlighted in their presentation is all of the improvements that encompasses the Wally's development.
To wrap up the traffic question, so does I'm not sure how it's classified, but does the level of efficiency of traffic at the end of the development, does it increase or decrease? Do we go into a better condition or a worse condition than we have existing?
The improvements that Wally's will make will leave the situation better than what we have today.
Agree.
Is there any more questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have another question. So the 200 permanent job number, I'm curious what those jobs actually look like, because the retail space can have a huge variety, and there's lots of people in like the retail space that are on SNAP and Medicaid versus working at a place like Quick Trip that pays you a really good wage and has really good benefits. And so wondering what the actual impact of those 200 jobs is.
Yeah, great question. So we're once again, we are a very unique type of employment, and we range from, obviously salary managers to part-time cashiers. Food service, as everyone knows, is a very challenging job to staff and for turnover. Turnover is very expensive. So for that, we invest in our people and their training. We invest in the salaries. We pay higher than minimum wage. I think our average wage for the 200 employees evens out to around $25 an hour. When you take into account, day one benefits, 5% 401k matching. Obviously, you're going to have salary managers who are making significantly more than that, and you're going to have hourly, part-time high school students who, maybe, $18, $20 an hour, depending on what job they're doing. But the blended weight of the labor is probably around $25 an hour.
Thank you.
So, excuse me, this will be a bonded, monetized TIF.
That's our request, yes.
And that will be in place when, at closing?
Right. We will have to close our financing, which will consist of private debt, of course, private equity, plenty of that, and then bond financing.
So there is no bridge financing of the TIF or TDD? And what will be the size? How is this underwriting? How are they sizing this up?
Well,
with
yeah,
the
sorry.
TIF
Yeah.
and the EATS and the TDD?
Well, we do everything in sequence. It's a dance. Every time we come to a big project like this, and there's a huge lead up, and there's the different players. So I'm doing this as a qualifier before I say what I'm going to say, which is we are Wally's, right? And so that's our role. We work with bond counsel, which is Gilmore and Bell, and David's sitting at the table. We work with city staff, and then we also have an underwriter that's selected. And so there's been so there's no big surprise. Oops, you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then this thing doesn't finance. We have had the underwriter do initial runs and make sure all this is checking out from underwriting criteria, parameters, net numbers, and what you're seeing on the screen. Everything we talk, it's an easy way to say it. Everything we're presenting to you is checking out right now in this bond market with our underwriter. You can always get surprised, right? Bonds could.
So Kurt, what is that number? Is it the 8.6? Is it 10 million?
Yeah, good question.
Is it 100% of the offsite costs?
It's too early to know, but it's possible it could get there if you just ask I am talking to the world right now, so this is it could fall a little bit short, and we'll have to in that sense, not the bridge you were talking about, like pre-financing, but we have to fill that, and we'll be prepared to do that. And then the mechanism, as I can tell, about these things, on the back end, we would be able to get reimbursed at the back end. We got to carry it for 14 years or something like that. So we hope to hit right in that range. It could fall a little short. We're ready for falling a little short, because if you're not ready for that, you're probably in the wrong, as a developer, you're probably in the wrong game, because the bond market, as you know, when we go to close, I don't know where rates will be, but we're confident about where we're at because of working with the city and the underwriter.
So David, can we continue to ask questions about the project and that aspect, or do you want to come back to that? You had a sequence here, but
that's fine. Go ahead.
We're a little bit out of it. Okay, Michael, being the ex-banker I am, how are your other two stores performing? Because when you look at the pilots and the EATS and the TDD, you guys, as you know, the majority of the revenue stream is coming from the EATS. The real estate taxes is a small portion of this. So at the end of the day, it's going to be important that your sales numbers and the projections I looked at, and I just averaged it, you guys, over the 23-year TIF period, is about 31 million. So that's about $570 a square foot in sales. I don't know what Buc-ee's does. They're a private company. You're private. I'm not trying to pin you down for anything right now, but I think for the rest of the TIF commission needs to understand these things are driven by sales.
Yeah. Our current stores are 30,000 square feet, 36,000 square feet. This is going to be about 54,000 square feet. Where we started out, obviously you took the average, but starts out, less than that, and obviously increases. I believe that these are conservative estimates.
So you've got cushion built in.
Yeah.
Which, as a banker, if I can add in, Michael, as a banker, I know you'll immediately get this. If we don't do that, it's a belly flop, because we get to the revenue study that the underwriter does, and guess what? They say, you're not going to do whatever, and we're back to square one, which is why Michael had us use that $25 million to start, because he knew he could hit it.
Yeah. I've done a back of the napkin, you guys, very amateurish. I'm not a bond underwriter, but I haven't taken out the CID because I didn't know about that till today, which is probably an interesting story in and by itself there. But if you look at that income stream, this applies some parameters, whether you use an underwriting ratio
Coverage.
or net present value, you seem to have cushion in this thing. Right. And you've got good acceleration on it. At a 14-year payback, that's a 165 times acceleration. So you can throttle it back. So in that regard, I think you've underwritten this on a very sound basis. And with the significant offsite, that's not uncommon to have significant offsite on these developments, and you do public-private partnerships. That's why these things are designed this way. As a banker, I want to see that. I think you've got a solid deal here.
Thanks, Commissioner. That was the design as the finance guy from the very beginning. Was Michael is a can I say your no nonsense? Which is just, sorry, have to, which is said, I don't fool me. I don't want to fool myself. And then we set it up so that it would pay off early. And
Right.
look, if something was a little slower, you left yourself a lot of runway there.
Yep.
So-
The tax base for all the other jurisdictions, the additional revenues that is projected to get versus a vacant piece of property that's only going to be worse for the city. All the components are there for a win-win.
Yeah, and I think the one other thing I'll just add, and, because it comes up about the CID is, we could have gone after more money. I care about, because once again, we're an operator, we're not a developer. I care what our sales tax rate is. I mean, even, someone will tell me, oh, someone $10, it's only, a couple cents more. But to us, it matters. We have to be competitive to the market. We want to be, that's what I focus on. So, we are very grateful for these programs. At the same time, it is an extraordinary amount of offsite money that we're allocating to get there.
Well, great questions. Commissioners, do you have any more questions? All right, close up that portion when now we'll go to the public.
So we're now entering the public comment portion. So if we have anyone in attendance that would like to speak either for or against the plan, please come to the front and speak now.
Lucy Young, 2320 Viking Drive, Independence, Missouri, 64057. First thing I'd like to do is qualify for Mr. Watkins. If there was any misunderstanding, it was not Mr. Rubenstein's nor Wally's fault. What I was trying to convey on my social media account is the fact that this will not be like the Bass Pro TIF. This will not be like the Santa Fe TIF. The Santa Fe TIF expires in 2044 and has been hanging on without any revenue source whatsoever to speak of. The Bass Pro has failed miserably and will not expire until 2045. And in fact, Gilmore and Bell had to come in 2018 and do a refinance on that because we were going to have a huge balloon payment and it was going to decimate the city. That's what I was trying to convey, that this was a public benefit to the citizen. And with them especially coming in and doing the extraordinary changes to I-70 and Nolan Road to help rectify the traffic that already exists was beyond my even understanding that a developer that would want to do that, somebody that wants to not only contribute financially by building the building, but to come forward and make definite changes that are going to help our citizens that already live here and use those roads today. So I thought that needed to be commended. And if anything else was construed, I apologize for that. But that was what I was trying to convey. I obviously have been a proponent of this project since the very first public meeting. I see nothing but public benefit out of this. I did look on your website and I did check out the jobs. And what they said, I believe, in the Pontiac store is they were offering cashier jobs, just part-time cashier's job for $18.75 an hour. And I think that's pretty good considering that we have very few organizations, not to name drop, but I'm going to name drop. The Menards pays very well like that as well. And you can see how well maintained their property is because their employees care about their business. And I can only assume that's what's going to happen with the Wally's as well. I did attend the I-70 public meetings that were held in Truman, and I spoke to the engineers there as well. They had had a lot of people stop and ask them what was going to happen with the Wally's. They said, this project is not even funded. We're just doing exploratory information on this at this time, and anything that would come forward with the I-70 widening would not happen for probably another decade. So he'll be up, he'll be running, it'll be existing. they will coexist. They will not be a deterrent one to the other, in my opinion. The only other thing I'd like to mention is with a 14-year payoff, the bonds will still exist for 27 years or 23. And you can answer that later. And then when does the TDD expire? Thank you. Thank you.
Developer team, do you want to go ahead and respond to those questions?
Happy to. It's easy because we can do one answer for both. So the 14-year estimated payoff, and that's what it is with the city seeing all the numbers and the assumptions, it's an estimated payoff, is the bonds. So it all goes away. Other than the good Commissioner Banker question, which was the cap, and that's what it is. There's no funny business, right? There's a cap, 8.6 million plus interest using round numbers. If the bonds, very astute question, came in a little less in terms of proceeds, we would have the opportunity when they would pay off, which by definition, if all the sales happen, if they're going to pay off a little sooner than 14 years, remember the question about 10 and a half, okay, then we would be able to have the opportunity to get that last, I'm going to make up a number, the last 800,000 that didn't get generated by the bond proceeds on a pay-as-you-go basis. But you should, if the math, all the assumptions are the same, it should still be 14 years. So little detailed, but hopefully that addresses that for you. It would not go for 27 years or whatever, yeah.
Do we have anyone else in attendance that would like to speak either for or against the project?
First, I would like to understand what you indicated earlier, that this will not be the final meeting regarding this from this commission.
That's correct. We'll get into detail on that after the public comment portion, but the anticipated result from this meeting is the continuance of the hearing to a subsequent meeting.
A continuance of this hearing before it goes to city council.
Correct.
Okay. Another thing that I thought I'd read, that we have new commission members right now.
This is my first commission meeting. I don't know about everybody else.
Okay. So all the commission members here, you've been seated. Okay. Sir, can you state your name and address for the record? She didn't. No, but I'd be happy to. My name is William Torres, and I live in Independence, 11504 East 33rd Terrace. I do have one minor complaint, and that is that this meeting is being held in the afternoon and not in the evening, and I think that's a little bit unfair to the working people in this city. So just so you know. It's all about the traffic, isn't it? And at one of the meetings where I testified, I pointed out some of the concerns I had about the traffic. And one thing that has been brought out here is that the MoDOT has given some sort of indication of acceptance and review of the plan. I have not seen anything in writing anywhere regarding any statement from MoDOT regarding that. And I think if there are some statements like that, that they need to be brought forth and shared with the public. The traffic, of course, is the main thing. And the concern is, or maybe an attribute from this plan, is that there will be more traffic that will benefit the businesses along Nolan Road. We already have more traffic. There's a lot of traffic there. And the whole concept regarding a Wally's is that most of their business comes from people that are going to be making a pit stop and then go on along their merry way down the road. The congestion issue is something that has not been really addressed. Just kind of consider this for a moment. The traffic at one of these facilities is such that a guy with a 60-foot long RV towing a skidoo can enter this facility and be serviced. It's not a semi-truck. There's been a lot of discussions about this is not a truck stop. But if you really look at these facilities, you'll see that there's a lot of these, what I would call amateurs, weekenders, that come into these facilities and fuel up. And to me, that poses a danger to the public. I would rather there be semi-truck drivers there because they're professionals. Now, I have talked to the MoDOT people, and their opinion, their attitude is more of a, like the Field and Dreams scenario. If they build it, they will come. They, in many instances, they really have no inclination to approve or deny a plan. They're just going to respond to the on-ramps and off-ramps. But first, they need to receive engineer drawings. The only drawings that have been publicly made available is a landscape drawing. That's all. And even the council members were wise enough to comment on, at this stage of the game, the property has not been platted. And the very definition of a plat is that you furnish engineered drawings. Now, they don't have to be complete, but they will address the main elements of the development. That has not been done. There certainly has been enough time to do that, has there not? They purchased the property 3 years ago, and all we see is this landscape plan. That's not sufficient. And with respect to the impact of the on and off ramps, again, if you look at these mega pump travel centers, as I said before, you got work trucks towing trailers, you got campers, you got recreational vehicles, pickup trucks towing boats and all that. So when you look at the traffic study itself, we're talking about how long the ramps need to be. Is that based on a Subaru or a certain percentage of these recreational oversized vehicles that are bound to use this facility? And that's going to impact the length of the improvements that are required to get on and off of this Nolan Road, no matter which direction you're going. So that is real critical. In addition, I think last time I mentioned the fact that there's a new standard by which to perform traffic studies. I don't know if you've done that yet. I encourage you to do so, and I encourage the elected officials not to act on this until the studies are brought up to date using industry-approved and accepted standard. So I think that's very, very important. All of us know there's too much traffic. We know that now. But by creating more congestion on this Nolan Road, you're basically isolating the traveling public. Now, I don't know how many of you do your grocery shopping like those of us who live west of Nolan Road do. Typical shopping run might be to go to a Price Chopper, maybe run down to Aldi's, maybe come back, maybe even Hy-Vee, to see if we can get, you know, the best deal. That's the way it is. That's what we do. This is going to really hurt the local community in that sense. You need to consider these things. And then I've been criticized for commenting on how Price Chopper people are piggybacking on the Wally's experience here in order to try to request relief for themselves, where they want to move from where they currently exist down over to Nolan Fashion Square. I believe that the reason they're doing that is because they know there's going to be congestion. They know that. I think that they have been party to some of these inside discussions regarding that, but I cannot prove it. And I think they're holding the city up here because if they move from where they currently are right now, okay, hold on, they're going to create an empty shell where they currently are there at 42nd Street. And have they not, has Price Chopper not heard of renewing a lease? They know what's coming down the road.
We'll need to.
This is off topic.
Yeah, this is off topic. We'll need to wrap this up. You'll have 10 seconds to wrap up.
10 seconds. It's very difficult to wrap up a lot of frustration in a short time period. But this has all been documented before. I have stated it before. You folks here know that. Oh, there is one more important thing that needs to be said, and that is just exactly who is Wally's? Look in your packet there. I think it's page 87, where the Commerce Bank is endorsing them, mentioning their 5 years of experience. And they mentioned that they are owned by, if you just give me the time here to look at this. Well, look it up. Who are they exactly? Are they based out of Texas? Or are they based out of another location? And who are they affiliated with? We need to find out who's involved here.
Thank you for your time.
Well,
Do we have anyone else that would like to speak either for or against the plan? I'll ask one last time. Is there anyone else in attendance that would like to speak either for or against the plan?
The public hearing portion of the case is now
So we
closed.
don't want to close the public hearing. We'll still be within the hearing, but we will move on to the commissioner's comments and any wrap-up questions. Now, I think at this point, it would be a good idea for me to explain what the desire of the developer and the city teams is for the result of this particular day of the hearing. And that is, as we mentioned previously, there has arisen two reasons to make amendments to the existing TIF plan: the removal of the CID components and the adjustments of the benefit of the cost-benefit analysis to correctly reflect those amounts going to the taxing jurisdictions. Under the TIF Act, during the continuance of a public hearing, those changes can be made with a 7-day notice to the taxing jurisdictions. So the plan that has been put together to address this would involve tomorrow, by the end of the day, sending out notices to the taxing jurisdictions of those two changes, having the developers submit those changes to the city so that it's on file in accordance with the TIF Act, continuing this hearing to next Friday, and then reconvening, opening the hearing back up or reconvening the hearing with that revised plan on file, taking any additional comments that might be made at that point, and then moving to a vote on whether to approve the plan by virtue of a TIF Commission resolution. So the 21st is the date that's been suggested. The reason for that is we're trying to hit December meetings at City Council if TIF Commission does approve this, so that we can have it fully approved by the end of the calendar year. The original plan was to hit December 1st for the first reading. The way things time out, that's no longer possible. But we do want to hit the regular meeting on December 15th. So in order to accomplish that, the TIF Commission has to have voted essentially by the end of November. And looking at the calendar, there's not a whole lot of days left that are not within Thanksgiving week. So the options are the 21st, the 24th, the 25th, which is Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, or the morning of the 26th, which I'm sure is probably the least desirable of those dates. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to the commission in terms of any discussion, follow-up questions with respect to what's being presented. But when we reach the conclusion of that, we need to maintain the hearing, and there will be a need for a motion to continue. We can discuss which dates are preferable and then focus on a time within those dates. We have some staff prepared availability times for this room. And then I'll suggest the wording of a motion to accomplish that.
I'd like to open it up for discussion for the commissioners.
The 21st would be the best date for me personally. I have something down at UNKC at noon. That's only an hour long, so I'd be available the entire rest of the day. I don't know what everybody else's availability is like.
21st works well for me as well. I think we need to probably see if we can get a later time frame. So if public testimony, if anyone else would like to attend the meeting, they have an opportunity to do that while it's not during work time.
So the availability, unfortunately, is in the morning on the 21st.
I would just note that the 21st is the only day that I cannot participate.
What is the availability on that following Monday or Tuesday? Is there any afternoon times?
So the times that have been checked for availability on each of the days within Thanksgiving week are 9 and 10 a.m. And then on Monday and Tuesday, it could also be 2 p.m.
So there are no evening capacity.
Looking for the room availability. It's daytime, unfortunately.
We've had TIF Commission meetings previously at City Hall. Is that not an option?
During the day, weekdays, the courtroom where the city council chambers are, those are used by municipal court. This meeting needs to be recorded, and the city has 2 facilities to do that in, this room as well as the council chambers. Those are the only two rooms right now that can be recorded in, so that limits the availability. But you are correct. In the past, we've had a few TIF Commission meetings in the evening in city council chambers, but we were able to avoid other pre-scheduled court-related activities, as well as council, planning commission, board of adjustment, other meetings that use that chambers as well.
So am I hearing you say that for these dates, that is not an option?
Yes.
Well, I guess, does Monday work or Tuesday work for a majority of the commissioners here? Or what day works best, Monday or Tuesday? Does that work for you?
I can make that work. I might need to do it online attendance, but I can make it work.
Yeah, it's hard to get off of work. How about you guys?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yep.
I'm good. I mean,
I could make any of them
I
work.
I would prefer the 21st. And I know time is of the essence also, so need to get this done as soon as we can.
How about, can I make a motion for the meeting to be on the 24th, then, that Monday at 10 a.m.? Can I make a motion for the meeting to be on the 24th at 10 a.m.?
So moved.
So to clarify, the motion is to continue the public hearing to Monday, the 24th at 10 a.m. in this room.
Do I have a second?
What was that time on the 24th?
10. Okay, we have a second. So the meeting will be moved to,
So we'll need to vote then.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Point of clarification, is this also the time that we want to extend to the commissioners to discuss what we have just?
So yes, the recommencement of the public hearing on that date will allow for further discussion. That said, if commissioners desire to discuss or ask continued questions now, we do have developer representatives that are ready to answer, and we're all here, so that's appropriate as well.
I think that would be the most appropriate, since we are all in attendance. Let's open this floor up to the commissioners for any discussion.
Chair, forgive me really fast if you don't mind. I tried to say it in my presentation, but just if you're like my brain, I like to keep straight the facts. There will be no additional information. Everything that was presented, it's nuanced little updates in the plan that will reflect everything we just talked about, just so you have it straight in your mind. You're not waiting to hear something new. Thank you for that.
Understood. Thank you for the clarification.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Then when we get the updated printouts, will they be somehow marked so that we can see which figures are different, or is that up to us to take a look and compare them and try to find where the differences are?
Shall I collaboratively answer with bond counsel? So first of all, there won't be a lot. You can tell there won't be a lot of markup. The main place for taxing jurisdictions that you look in any TIF plan in Missouri is to that exhibit 10 on this one, I think it might be, but whatever the exhibit is that shows the chart I had put up one slide back from this one. So you'll get that. We have found, I mean, this can be, I think, collaborative. Really, I'm not in charge. Bond counsel is more in charge of this, but it can get pretty messy. So it almost could be, if you find it appropriate, we could email, we could talk in addition to getting the official, and we could quickly walk through it and look at it, because we found if we take charts and try to do that. Now, in the body of it, I think the few changes you'll see in the body of the TIF plan will be strike through and what you'd expect, but the exhibits just don't come across well.
For sure, those exhibits were very data dense.
Yeah.
And so they were difficult. I mean, I had to actually blow them up myself to be able to see the information. So I totally understand that. So it sounds like, just let me reflect, that probably we'll see some kind of a red line narrative. But if we have questions about the actual charts, we should email you.
Perfectly appropriate for us to contact us directly. Yes, ma'am.
Is that okay, David?
I don't have concerns with that.
And just to be clear, not to be too informal, but the school district's number will go up. Just so, like, spoiler alert. But
We always like that.
I have a question, probably more for the other commissioners, because it doesn't really relate to the Wallies, and it's probably before Tom's time. What has this intersection, the traffic at this intersection, looked like in the past, in the heyday of Kmart? Because obviously, Kmart had been on a large decline for most of my life before I was. Its heyday was before I was paying attention to traffic. So, how was the traffic at that intersection previously? Because I would expect that there would be an increase with the Wallies just by the nature of the business compared to a Kmart. But the heyday, I know that those places could get pretty packed too. So if it, like in that intersection previously.
What I'll try to do is try to just summarize the traffic study that was done and reviewed by the city's traffic engineer as well as MoDOT's traffic engineers. What is out there now under the, if Wally's did not go forward, is you have some intersections that operate at some very poor timing lengths, meaning cars are waiting for a very long time to get through those intersections to get down the roadway. With the build conditions and the recommended traffic improvements that the traffic study recommended, as well as the traffic engineers at both the city and MoDOT agreed to, is there are improvements to those. And I will just highlight one of them, 39th and Canterbury. Currently right now in the no build situation that operates at a very, very poor level of service. It's very difficult to get out of there. Under this development that operates at a much better level of service. Where traffic can more freely turn, get out of the site, and to the places that they're supposed to be going. And so this traffic study analyzed each and every intersection in this vicinity, and in each one there have been improvements that have been made. The number of crashes are going down. There's a variety of other factors that the traffic study gets into.
Any further discussion?
I would just mention that the school district is, of course, happy about the 50% flow to the tax districts, even during the life of the TIF. And I also was really pleased to hear your comments about the culinary opportunities. We've had other developer operators who have looked at for ways to partner with the district. We've had scoreboard sponsorships, teacher externships, students internships. We have our academy model with capstones for marketing, culinary. And so it's just really good for me to hear your interest in that, and I hope that we can continue to explore those kinds of things as we go through this time period.
I'd love to hear from Mr. Mason on how leadership is stating this will affect you in the public library.
We don't see any negative effects at all, so we're supportive of this effort.
Okay, well.
So if there's no further discussion, you can entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All right, I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you for your time.
I forgot to school board in, I think, May of